Yeah, so have you been, bro? Good.
Yeah, just busy, mate. Busy, busy, busy. Fucking injured. Like,
Right, what's up?
um, tendon running from my long head of my bicep
Mm.
coming across here. Like, I've had aggro for it for years. Now it's at the point where it just keeps me up at night.
Oh
Like,
yeah, you're sleeping on your side. It's fucking don't matter where you.
yeah, I can lay here like that, and because our arms don't naturally lay flat to
Yeah, yeah.
the bed, like it just causes tension across there constantly.
Mm.
Seen a guy, and he was like, "Mate, you're probably gonna have to get referred to hospital." And then what they'll do is they'll end up opening you up and just shaving your tendon because it's probably frayed. It's like,
Yeah, I just went fucking private and literally got an MRI scan, seen what the crack was, and then just went straight through that way. Just
yeah,
so then they fucking don't butcher you. It was just
yeah,
easy. It was like I think it was they said an 8 week waiting list, but it
mm.
actually wasn't. Like it would have been forever longer. So I just fucking just went straight private. Just easier. Just get it done.
They do the same sort of thing.
Well, to be fair, I've gone private and then I put in, the BPC 157.
Yeah, yeah,
I've just been jabbing that in my shoulder every day, morning and night, and it's
yeah.
pretty much fixed.
So I've got it in my fridge. I'm like, can't be asked. But then, like,
Hey, I was like that, but because I've not been able to train push for like
yeah,
probably 4 months now, I'm not trained push. So like I was like, I'm prepping. I have to, even though I've got good chest, good shoulders, it's like
yeah,
I still need to stimulate fucking that muscle if I'm going to be fucking prepping.
yeah.
So I was
What were
like,
you dosing at?
I put in 200.
250?
Hey,
200,
no,
250?
yeah, 200 per shot, so morning and night.
Yeah.
Which it's worked, man. I was
Mm.
like flabbergasted to be fair. I'm just going to keep it up and see what happens. Knowing my
Yeah.
luck, will probably fuck up again, but we'll see.
That's
But
it. You get past the point of like everything, yeah, it's cool. I'll push a little harder and then bang.
yeah, it's just one of them. If you're not if you've not got injuries, you're not a real bodybuilder. But I always say
Live
this.
with it.
I've got fucking leg pain. I've got this pain. I've got that pain. It's just a matter of managing it.
Yeah.
You can get them if you're going to be pushing, especially progressive overload.
Yeah.
Like if you're pushing hard and pushing heavy weight, you're going to
Yeah.
get those, aren't you? So just a
Yeah.
matter of fucking getting on with them. But yeah,
Indeed.
so welcome back to the fucking podcast.
I'm back.
We're
Quick,
back, like
quicker than we expected.
in demand, supposedly.
Yeah.
So
Apparently so.
we're going to run. We obviously picked our last question, and
Yes.
now we're going to run the questions that people have asked. So I'll start off with the first. It's probably one of the most important questions we've got, which is really really exciting. Can you crack a cream egg between your arse cheeks?
Oh, well, I can't say yes or no because I've never tried it.
What are you going to try
But
now?
but I've got a white cream egg in the kitchen, so
Oh, mate, you got to. Oh,
not
mate, if it's
right,
not a
man.
video, if it's not going to be the fucking thumbnail, that I don't want nothing from you. Mate, I think with the power of my hip thrusts, then I definitely could do a cream egg. But like, I think an actual egg, an actual whole egg, I don't think I could do a whole egg.
I think mine would. I think a cream egg would actually melt the amount of fat that I've got in my
Yeah,
at the moment.
that's what a sweaty ass cracker just melted. So it's not a real test, to be honest. But
Yeah,
it's something for a Thursday night to give it a try, isn't it?
yeah. I'm sure
Yeah.
OnlyFans. I think there's a market
Yeah,
probably on
that's
OnlyFans.
give the people what they want. Okay.
Exactly.
How many reps does it take to crack a whole leg? Get back to us in the comments.
Yeah.
Or if you know anyone who has cracked a whole leg in their arse, people do that. Or not put it up their arse, just in their arse.
In the crack, not up.
In the crack, not in the hole and cracked it. Not in Benidorm with like Sticky Vicky or whatever she's called with ping pongs. Fucking nuts. Right, so that was probably the most important one we got.
I
So we've
think
got
it was.
that, right? And
I
now
have not got any serious questions like that, unfortunately. I don't think. I think mine are pretty much all
people
bodybuilding
know what
related.
I'm like. People know I'm a fucking idiot for no reason. Shit.
Um, let's fire one your way. What forgot? What forgot? What forgot? Um, a lot of people just said, "I've not got a question for you, but just mention me."
We can do that. We'll start a fucking tip jar and you can just add
Yeah,
donations.
donation straight to
Yeah.
PayPal. Right, straight in EQ.
All right.
Ignore EQ. Ignoring the science-based evidence. How effective have you found this with clients? If you've used it in the past or on yourself,
I've used it in the past.
goodbye.
What I would say is I used to always use it purely down to the fact I was told to.
Exactly the same with me.
Yeah, I think back in probably like 2015, 16, everybody was running pretty much it's like the now the new generation of Primo Mast and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of running the same sort of setup. I'll be honest, I, I felt great on it.
Yeah, like I think from like, but we're trying to ignore the science-based things of it. If you run it at a reasonable lowish dose, that you can feel good on that, especially if you control the other variables as well.
And I think what would you say lowest dose is for you? Because that's person dependent for everyone else.
For me, 300.
Yeah, see, I've been up to a gram of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I didn't. It's a hard one because I was running like the
You
science.
have other variables, don't you? So you can't.
You can't really tell. And again, as well, like with your training experience, how old, like when you get older, when you've got more, like we say, niggles and this. And when I
Yeah.
was younger, it was just like, yeah, just fucking throw the fucking kitchen sink at it. Like I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise that. Like
No.
if I listen to you, advise it. But again, I can tell you what it feels like and what it's like because I've done it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't think it's not warranted. I think 400 for me, 400 to 300 to 400 is a sweet spot.
Yeah. I think I pushed up to 400. And again, there were other variables in play at the time, but my strength was phenomenal at the time. You know what I mean?
I've never had the appetite thing. Have you ever had that? Where people say,
No, no. The only problem I have with appetite is when I run trend.
yeah, I think people have said it raises their appetite.
All right, no,
Never had
not
that. Like, oh, I'm starving. I'm on EQ. I'm like,
nah,
no.
nah. Just not enough calories.
Yeah. You're just not eating enough, bro. Trust me.
I've put a couple clients on EQ, low dosage, just because of evidence-based protocols that we've run in the past and trialing.
Anecdotally, like the feedback you picked up.
So we'll trial the new age approach to a certain degree on some people, and potentially it's not as responsive. Everybody's different at the end of the day, and I've seen evidence-based report, I mean, like feedback to myself from the client over a period of time that hasn't been as productive as what I've seen them
do in the past.
on in the past. You know what I mean? So I have to take that information on board, and you know what I mean. I want to be able to progress my athlete as best as I can. I can't just say, yeah, we're going to stick with this. We're going to keep on doing this until it works, or you know what, we've got evidence that this worked in the past. Why not use it at a sensible sort of
I'm
in a
exactly
sensible
the same
context?
ways. I feel like obviously, as we spoke about in the previous podcast, the book says one thing and science says one thing, but it's all down to application.
Yes.
And if you've got that to hand and you've worked with this client for a long time and you can see they just respond better to EQ, then you're going to use it. It's another tool, it's another anabolic to use. It's not, I think it's ignorant to why people are like, nah, we're never going to use that again because of X, Y, and Z. I think everything has its place. It's just when you use it in the right way.
Exactly.
The only thing I've found is with EQ is obviously the red blood count going higher. And that's so if someone's like, if I'm getting blood work back on the red blood count and we're having to bloodlet, I'm like, we ain't gonna put you on fucking EQ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's it. And that's one of the variables you can control. That's when we go into the science side of things and sort of say, look, right, this is what we can monitor. Okay, there's supplements we can potentially run whilst running EQ to potentially help. And then obviously monitoring bloods on a more regular basis, I would say. So like for the client that I'm currently doing, we're doing every 8 weeks or so. So again, it's all down to the individual, down to controlling it and making sure that I guess you're approaching it with a wise head at the end of the day.
I think like the take home from that is don't write anything off the table. Don't put anything.
Yeah.
Maybe DMP, maybe, but in a sense, like that sort of stuff is just when we've got drugs to play. It's all person dependent, all situational. Everybody's different. So again, you wouldn't say, oh, some people say, oh, I choose Primo over EQ, or I choose Masteron over EQ. But again, it's just down to the individual. If you know yourself that you respond better off EQ, trial. It's all trial and error. So trial the Primo sort of route, DHT route, and then see what the results are. See what your blood work's like. Trial the EQ, and just collect that data over time. If you're obviously in the anabolics and you're doing anabolics, it's going to be a long game. It's not going to be one cycle. So it's a matter of just collecting that data yourself. And the same with coaches. they need to look at their clients, and that's the beauty of working with clients for a long period of time is you get to know the body, you get to know what works and what doesn't work, isn't it?
Yeah, especially from a like a fair cycle perspective, you know what I mean? It's certainly something that you wouldn't chuck in straight away. Again, it's got to be that sort of seasoned, evidence-based sort of protocol that you can put together.
Another question I got is, okay, as we moved on to that, let's do best training style, volume, frequency.
I've got one very similar to that. Let me just see how close it is.
Probably exactly the same person. We love you. Thank you for your question. Keep
Um,
asking questions.
Mine was, do you prefer a bro split, high volume style training, hitting the weak area parts 2 times a week, etc.? So we'll try and cover that, I guess, in one. So for me, high volume, high intensity. That's how I train. That's how I've always trained. That's how me and Lewis have always trained. And
What would you call high volume for people? Like, what is your high volume?
high volume, we're talking probably, I don't know, 6+ exercises, a workout, at least 3 sets, looking at 12 to 15 reps potentially. There may be scope for where we have big compounds where we will back off and approach it from a right, okay, lower the rep range. But the volume is it in that sort of set period of time across the board. So for me, like going in and approaching it with low volume, low intensity, with less exercises doesn't work for me.
Okay.
And I guess I factor that into what my plans for my clients as well. To a certain degree, I do listen to the feedback that they obviously give me, and the plans are tailored, I guess, to an individual and what they need to do to respond a certain way. But I always believe that high volume is very effective.
For me, personally, what I do is I used to do super high volume, as you'll know, like with Jamie. I used to just do go and go and go.
Yeah.
But I found as I got stronger, ability to have that many sets, that at peak performance in a sense, actually progressing, it was detrimental. And then my central nervous system was just fucked. I think high volume is good if you're not applying intensifiers. So what I tend to do is I'll do like a workout of 2 halves. So I'll do like the first say, let's take push, for example. The first 3 movements would be like incline press, shoulder press, dips. And that'd be like some could be a press pause in there, 2 straight sets in there, and then it might be like just a normal back off set, loading and back off set. And then the second portion to the isolations would be like a muscle round on the pec deck, so accumulating volume that way. Then inside laterals will have like an intensifier accumulating volume that way, and then like a push down rope, and then a push down like dual rope, and then something else, an overhead extension would have more on just to add the volume in there. So I'm getting that, for me, I get that first bit where I like to progress the numbers on a rest pause and get pretty strong. And then on the back end, when it's the isolation movements, I don't feel it's going to accumulate too much fatigue. I like to then ramp up the volume and the like quote unquote intensity. The intensity for me, even in a rest pause set, is fucking brutal. And you might not see, but like you'll see on my hack squat, I'll do a 30 rep set of a hack squat. So that'll be like my intensifier. Do you know what I mean? So I accumulate the volume that way, but I'll still only probably do 6 to 7, 8 exercises. Sets for everything.
I don't think you need to go silly with the amount of exercises. It's what you put into each exercise and using them wisely. Okay, like you said, the compound movements, the big compound movements, potentially that you can almost lower that volume slightly and then use the intensifier for the higher volume. And then across the board on that session, you're getting that volume, accumulated volume.
I just find with the progressive overload stuff, if you're going to say you're doing an incline press, it's harder to, you're not really going to use real control, if that makes sense. So you're not going to cue that to be like, okay, let's drag the muscle in and slowly contract it and feel it and squeeze it. It's just like, we're going to move that weight
with A to B.
Chest, from A to B with the chest. And that's going to grow the muscle, like going to break down the muscle. And then we get into a pec deck, we can then look at thinking about, okay, the small minute details of like where we're going to put our hands, where we're going to connect, if we're going to do a pull, if we're going to do a squeeze. And I think that then layers on to more and more volume for me. And I just found, again, same with what we're saying with EQ, saying like one training methodology is getting into a camp mindset, being like, that only works. But everything's a tool. So it's like, even with body parts, I train body parts differently.
And you have to, again, down to the individual, injuries, you know, we were talking before this about my injury, the injuries you've had in the past. You've not been able to push for 4 months or whatever. But like, you have to be sensible with it. At the end of the day, you're not going to go straight under a bar and bench press 3 or 4 plates aside, are you? You know what I mean? It's something that you need to work around and be very mindful of, especially if you're in a prep scenario where you don't want to get injured. You need to think, right, okay, do I need to adjust the plan to suit the scenario, not the individual, I guess, at that point?
I phase mine, like, so when I'm prepping, I'll phase it. So
Yeah.
I'll like start out when calories are high, cardio's low, drugs are at a decent level, but they're not massively high, but my recovery is good. And then as I go through, and it might be like 10 weeks out to fucking 6 weeks out, I'll have a phase where I'm like, you know, I'm going to take these rest pauses out and take them to straight sets.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, because we're still real fucking strong on a 6 to 9, but a rest pause will kill you. And again, you're running the risk of injury. And then it's like, okay, well, from the 6 weeks or 4 weeks out, I'll just run straight sets, or I'll run straight sets on compounds, and then maybe an intensifier just to like get the blood in there, even like drop sets and things. That's one thing I would touch on is people will see really strong bodybuilders doing drop sets, like take an example, Jamie or Rob Taylor. But you don't realize like they max out every machine. So the only way they can make the weight heavier or more intense or get more reps or more volume is to do a drop set. So
and that's what I do with Lewis, exactly the same as what I do with Lewis, because Lewis is freaky strong, and we're limited, and it's like, okay, we band it, we rest pause it, we'll muscle round, we'll even, if we have to, chuck in German volume, you know what I mean? Because these are all tools at the end of the day, and if an athlete is at his prime and maxing all the equipment, you know what I mean? It's a matter of like, how do we work around this? You have to think
harder.
Yeah, it's but then making it harder is, I guess, you're increasing that intensity naturally, because you're thinking outside of the box. You're not just going through the straight sets. The intensity increases. That sort of, then the volume then increases because you have to increase the volume. So
I think from a beginner standpoint, I think it'd be ideal for them to get really, really good at getting stronger and don't worry too much about. I see it a lot, like the cuffs around the elbows.
Too many cuffs on young kids in the gym.
Yeah, and it's like, just train, like not in a knobhead way, but just go in, eat, hit your body parts, and don't look at what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to look at like the minute details, but you haven't built, like, you're looking at
built the tissue to find, like, we're looking at these guys are watching pro bodybuilders on Instagram. You know what I mean? Potentially. The
analogy that I always use is like, you're picking out door handles for your house, but you're not built the house. Like, you look at, you know what I mean? You're looking at little tiny details, like, oh, them lights would be amazing in my house. You ain't got a fucking house yet. Like, you ain't saved up the deposit, you silly cunt. Do you know what I mean? It's true, isn't it? Like, you won't be picking out light fittings for an house that you've not got a deposit for. So build the house, get it sweet, and then you're good to go. How do you go approaching bringing up a lacking body part?
For me, I'll look at a split, and then you're almost sort of, you're looking at physique first before the plan and thinking, right, okay, how can we prioritize from top to bottom? Okay, this kid may have freakishly good quads that may not need working every like 9 days or whatever. So we can drop the volume straight away from there and utilize the volume there on, say, potentially the top 3 muscle groups that we need to, and then you've got like the rest that below it. So we'll sort of plan to try and integrate the muscle groups that need to be volumized across a week. So maybe 2 or 3 times across a week. Maybe not just chucking it in, right? Okay, there's one session where you're doing, I don't know, overall 20 sets. Okay, we're looking at, if we break that down, and if we do 10 sets 3 times a week, you're looking at 30 sets across a week rather than 20. You know what I mean? So you're not killing that CNS just by hitting it all in one day. So
that's what I do. I find, like, if you look, not to go too scientific, but nothing happens in the muscle after about 72 hours. So nothing's going to be, after 72 hours being stimulated, nothing's really going to be happening. So we can kind of hit things more frequently, but we split. I say, for example, I'll just take me, for example. I've been dying to try and bring my back up. Whether it's come up, we'll fucking see. But we then split it. Then I might have 30 sets or 40 sets for back a week. So that'd be 220 set sessions. But what I do is I'll put that over 3. So then I put that over 3 sessions and train it every 3 days, say. And that's just how, and then we'll just merge everything else in, because you know yourself, like even with quads, if you've got a really responsive body part, you can do 6 sets and they'll stay. As I just said, my chest hasn't been trained in like 4 months, and people don't believe me on that, but it hasn't. It hasn't. I haven't trained it, but People are like, why are you not doing push? I'm like, one, I can't, and two, I don't really need, and it could sound arrogant, but I don't really need to, because I know the minute I do push it, my chest will be back to normal. What I found is people don't understand you have to take away from some to then give to another. So
People feel that they're missing out if they remove something. I've got Jordan Gomez hitting delts.
Oh, it's crazy, man.
For like 4 sets a week. You know what I mean? Just
his fucking delts are as big as my head.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So there is zero priority. It's probably the last set of the week, you know what I mean? It's just right, put some blood through it, and that.
I bet they'll fucking still outgrow everybody else's delts. That's the thing, it's just a hyper responding body part. So that's what people, this is talking high level as well, guys. Just remember, you're talking competitors who are now competed a year or 2 years and then looking at, right, where do I need to improve? And this is how you improve in this body part. So again, if we're looking at, say, 60 sets of recovery over a week, and then we just distribute them to where we feel is needed.
And that is it. Like, it's referring back to building that house at the end of the day. Advice for any first timer: use a bro split, single muscle pop groups.
I think using a bro split is quite good as well, because you get good at the movement patterns.
Yeah, and you feel it. You feel it in one. You're not then focusing. All right, should I be hitting it? What you can.
As well as like when you're younger, you haven't got that muscle line connection. You haven't got the ability to. I'm not being ignorant, but you haven't got that ability to take a set all the way there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could do 4 sets of 10, and the reason you can do 4 sets of 10 is you need that, because you're not be able to take a set to true failure when you go in the gym.
Yeah.
And over time, you build up that ability to get that intensity. But when you're starting out, most people, I write a workout out for someone and like, what, 6 sets? And I'm like, yeah. And then they come and train with me 6 sets, and it's a tough. They're on the floor, literally. Yeah. I'm not naming them, but they know who they are if they're watching. Every client comes and they'll be on the floor, and it's nothing to do. We've done the same workout. We've done less than they are actually on, but it's because of the intensity and the taking sets to true failure that really, like, obviously brings about that adaptation. And then you can't do that when you start out, so you need to accumulate more sets to be able to get a feel for it and then actually stimulate the muscle.
Yeah, and for me, it's that sort of development from that point as a amateur novice into a sort of seasoned bodybuilder. You know what I mean? You know the stages of what you need to do. You need to respect the fact that you got to start from somewhere, not jumping in and doing everything at once. You know, when you're thinking about, you got to prioritize everything. Just build, eat.
The best advice I ever got was never ask Phil Heath how he got his arms. He just grows. His arms just grow. Yeah. He can curl 20-pound dumbbells or 10-kilo dumbbells, and he'd still have massive arms. Yeah. It's like, ask the guy who's brought his arms up. Like, that's the guy to ask. And it's probably not following him. Funniest prep story. Have you got any funny prep stories?
Yes, I do. Me and Amanda got together in 2017. We were both in prep, and we were both living in our own place at the time. And it was, I'd go and see her, and then come back to mine early hours of the morning. From still be on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Right, babe, what are you up to? I'm snacking. What are you snacking on? One night, we went pretty mental on buying, like, as we all done at one point in our life in prep, bought the like entire shop's worth of good food and just stored it in cupboards. We've done it, and we got to a point where we were like, right, we need to put this out of the house. And at the time, I had a detached garage, so I put it all in the detached garage. One night, couldn't sleep, really craving it. Went out of my house in my boxer shorts, across to my garage, and had a feeding frenzy. Literally just sat there. There was an old dining table and chair set in my garage. Pulled one of the chairs out, sat there in my boxer shorts, just pigging away. The next day, literally. That's about as funny as it gets.
Yeah, I've got fucking some right weird ones. I once, I think Neil Hill was prepping me, and he lived all the way down in Tenby, which is like a good 6 hours from me. And I was driving down, and I obviously prepped with him, so on and so on. He checked me. That's how far I went to do a fucking in-person check-in. 6 hour drive and 6 hour drive back. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. So I'm driving back, and the girl I was with at the time, she did understand bodybuilding. She got it kind of, and we broke down. So literally, my tire flat popped. And me being a fucking idiot, I had like a fucking X5. I was like 20. I had an X5 with that big fuck off, like 20-inch rims on it.
The muscle hype days.
And being a fucking wannabe fucking gangster. Anyway, and so I popped tire. But I was obsessed because it was like my second prep or second prep. I was obsessed with like if this time I do cardio. Like there's not like I don't do cardio at any other time. It has to. I just didn't really understand. I thought you have to do cardio every day at the same time, or it's not really effective.
Anabolic time frame.
Yeah, so mate, I've got to a fucking service station. This guy, I've literally drove it on like flats to the service station, fucked my rim, and then this RAC guy's coming out to me. So I'm like, fucking 9:30. I've got cardio to do. So I said, so what are you doing? So I'm doing cardio. So I walked around. I think I told this story before. I walked around the car park of the service station doing my cardio. Yeah, with fucking. Oh, I didn't have a fucking Fitbit then. I fucking just on my phone with timing it. RAC guy comes and he's like, "What's he doing?" So she rings me and she's like, "Yeah, the RAC guy's here to change your tire." I said, "I can't stop cardio." I said, "I've got another 20 minutes." So the guy's like, "What?" Like, because in my head, I thought if you stop cardio, you're a fucking. Once you've started, you can't stop, but you're not going to burn any fat. So I was like, "Fuck, you know." So he's driving next to me in his fucking RAC van, like, "Excuse me, mate," like, and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm here to fix your car." It's like, "Yeah, no, 20 minutes, mate. I'll be with you in 20 minutes." Anyway, it turns out he won't fix my car. So he fucked off. He said, "If you want to take 20 minutes," and like fucked off. Couldn't put a time on. I was like literally 2-3 hours away from home. I had to sleep in my car, yeah, and I had to get my mate to come out the next day. So this girl at the time was like, "Are you fucking nuts?"
How long did that last?
I can't remember, mate. She was like, "You're taps." And in my head, I was not like, you know, when you get on prep and you're like literally like you're obsessed, aren't you?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was even worse because I didn't even understand that you couldn't.
Mate, I was the same. Like my first few preps, I was like so regiment. It was. I look back and think, "Fuck, you must have been an asshole."
Yeah, like, I still am an arsehole, boys. I just get away with it.
That actually brings
holidays. I just book holidays to get away with it. I'm like, "Yeah, we'll go here and let's do this."
Yeah, that's it. You just spend money just to try and get away with it.
I think the worst I've spent on, like you're saying, on food was I used to do like cardio. I used to be basically looking for like American, you know,
American sweets and candy.
I remember spent 180 quid on American cereal. Like,
what's your silliest prep buy?
A Bentley. What a knob! Yeah, it's the worst thing I ever bought. Not the worst, but yeah, that was like, you know, you can't buy clothes, or you can't buy. Yeah. I don't really ever go on holiday at the time for whatever reasons. I wasn't allowed to leave the country, and I was just like, "Fuck it, let's just get it." And then afterwards, about probably 6 months in, and it was like 250 quid at a weekend I was spending on fuel. I know, mate. I was like, I wasn't even earning that great of money then. I was doing okay, but you know what I mean, like the proper winging it. Yes, that's. But what's yours?
I don't know, mate. I bought it's just bought loads of random stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'll go on my phone when I don't sleep at night, and like the next day I'll say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" Like for example, last prep, we got 2 like graffiti statue paintings in our front room. Yeah. Like I said to Amanda, "Oh, babe, what do you think of these?" So they're all right. I was just flicking through Instagram now when the adverts come up. They're pretty cool. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, the advert came up on my phone. I was like, bing, bought like 400 quid for two paintings come in.
Thing is, though, they're so clever with it as well with the Instagram marketing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. I'm getting on this with the clothing. It's like Instagram marketing is the way.
Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? And it drives you. It works, mate. Like
mate, it's subliminal as fuck. Like you just see it, and you see it, and then you see it, and it's like, I need them.
Oh, yeah. Mate, I've just signed up to like Sole Supplier.
Oh yeah.
Literally every day I get updates. Sign up to release date of this trainer. Sign up to the.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it works. It
works because that's what we have that stack that building there.
What's the stupidest thing you've had a client do?
I was talking to someone about this the other day. So the old system that I had when I used to send a diet across, it used to be set up in like portions. So like it would be 100 grams, and then it would be a portion of 100 grams. And this client's last meal was skyr yogurt, almond butter, blueberries. Okay. So it'd say like 100 grams, and it would be like 2.5, so it'd be 250 grams of skyr yogurt, 100 grams with one portion of blueberry, so 100 grams of that, and then it'd be 100 grams and then 0.2 of almond butter, so 20 grams of almond butter. So like this client was, I'll do my sort of introduction video, explain all the diet and how it works and everything. Client's like, yeah, no problem. Six weeks down the line, I've seen on Instagram, guys put our favorite meal of the day, last meal. 100 grams of almond butter, 100 grams of skyr yogurt, and 100 grams of blueberry.
Fucking hell.
He literally just read the first column.
Oh,
He'd been doing that for 6 weeks. Every day, 100 grams of nut butter for the last.
What is enjoying the diet? It's like, oh, diet's easy. Fucking piece of it's fucking there, just bathing in fucking all
500 calories of nut butter.
Yeah, just casual.
To be fair, like he was still progressive. So that...
Yeah, doing well, like fucking hell. I think I had the same sort of scenario where I'll write, I don't know why everybody always asks, like uncooked weight chicken or cooked weight rice, dry weight rice. So I brought on there like 100 grams of dry weight rice. So this guy was like, mate, I don't know how you do it. Do what? Like
eating dry rice.
Yeah, honestly, right. He was like, my stomach's killing me. And it's been about 2 weeks. I said, why? What's up? What's wrong with you? Like at the time, like, what's wrong with your digestion? What's up with you eating anything? He's like, how do you eat that dry rice? Because it's like pellets. Like you've been fucking eating 100 grams of dry rice. I thought, A, for fucking effort and literally dedication, but mate, why would you not text me to say like this doesn't seem right? Do I cook this rice or not? He'd ate dry rice, mate. His
stomach, like a machine gun.
Yeah, his stomach must have been well. His stomach and his arsehole must be fucking killing him. You know, imagine shitting out like 100 grams of dry nearly a kilo of dry weight rice in your arse, like. Yeah, fucking hell.
Nasty. I did have one that relates to the last question, sort of. First prep. What was your fondest memories of your first ever prep? Or what was it like most memorable part of your first ever prep?
See, I always say this as well, like the show day. I never really remember the show day and such. I do remember the first one, but like you'll probably have the same thing, and most clients that I speak to say the same, like they have flashbacks of the prep where like, remember when that happened on this prep? Or remember that happened on that prep? Or remember like a certain time that I was on the Stairmaster thinking I was a fucking gladiator and breaking it up, genuine weirdo. But yeah, like for my first ever prep, it was a weird one because I was told at the start of the prep, I didn't have I had the audacity to think I could be a bodybuilder, but I actually wasn't. If you looked at me, I wasn't good enough to be a bodybuilder at the time, but I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to do diet anyway. And then I think it was after I won my first show, and then that day after going in the gym, and the feeling of obviously everybody being like, wow, fucking hell. Because when I was younger, I won like the overalls, like, so I was only like, wasn't meant to fucking compete. Everybody in the gym was obviously seasoned competitors who'd done this show.
The kid that everyone hated.
Hey?
The kid that everyone hated.
Everyone. I was arrogant. I was this. And I probably was a little bit, but in my head, I was like, realistically, you all doubted me and I just fucking won. So I was buzzing with it, but it was like that feeling of like, I don't know, afterwards, just like, I don't know, somewhat relief. And then somewhat like, yeah, just fucking, I just loved afterwards. And the other side I get, I'm fucking well with, like, probably anti-estrogen I was on. But I'll text everybody, like, I'll be doing like one of my last cardio sessions. And I kind of text everybody that's ever like helped me, you know, on the prep. And I'll just text them saying, couldn't do it without you, thanks a lot, couldn't do it without you. Just because I'm emotional as fuck. I'm like nearly crying when I'm doing it. Like, you might just lent me a fucking strap in the gym or something, but I just text like, I don't know why. I just feel like, I don't know, that's probably it. Yeah, that's the best moment.
I was actually with my first coach, Paul Scriber, last night, and we were talking about this. When I started my prep for my first ever show, the same scenario. I was like, you know what, I looked all right. I was like, well, give this a shot. Looking back now, I'm thinking, fuck, what were you thinking? But I started my first prep at 85 kilos, and I stepped on stage at 85 kilos.
Do you want to know what I stepped on stage at my first show? 160 pounds. 160 pounds, and I'll tell you, and that's going to sound bad. I'll tell you, I beat, you know, Simon Drake.
Yeah. I
beat Simon Drake. I was backstage and I was like, fuck, and Kelvin, you know Kelvin Hyde?
Yeah.
I was like, these guys are fucking enormous. I was like, ridiculously good. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. And that's a good note to everybody. Don't worry, it's not about the size.
Yeah, well, she'll tell you that, but she's lying. She's
Don't
telling
listen to Gareth.
unless it's your bank account or your penis, she's lying. You know what I mean? Definitely. There's another one. Probably like it was two, but I'll split it. What does it feel like to coach someone for a pro card?
Very, very rewarding. You like almost as if you've won that pro card yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not taking that away from the athlete, but you know what I mean. You've been with that person every step of the way. You know what I mean, and it's not just a quick prep. Like for example, Lewis, I've been training for 5 years, and it's everything that you've worked towards has come to that point. You know what I mean, and it's the sort of gratitude that you get, the humbling feeling of, you know what, we've done it. You know what I mean? He's a guy that stepped on stage and looked fantastic and had to grind his ass off all the time. But it's, I guess, a feeling where I know it's hard to explain. It's a sheer buzz. You know what I mean? And like I can never sleep before a show of any of my athletes. It's in my head. I'm having that sort of pre-show nerves for them to a certain degree because I lived through that moment with them, and this is why I can step away from competing because I thoroughly enjoy the process of it, especially that final bit and being able to be with them at the show and see them on stage. You know what I mean? And for that to accumulate to a pro card, it's incredible. You know what I mean? Especially like even David, like my mentor Zeke boy, he hadn't competed for like 8 years, and I took him on early part of 21, and I said, "Man, you got great potential. You know what I mean? You've got the potential to be at that level." And like from that moment on, we worked towards it. And even when we got to the height of the off season, he's like, "Mate, I don't want to do men's physique. I can't pose for shit." And like it was so rewarding to see how that turned around come the end. You know what I mean? The drive and the passion from that individual to get to where he wanted to be and then get his pro card. You know, it's so blatant. I guess it's something that you can't describe until you experience it.
There was a double barrel question of like, how does it feel to win a pro card? And like from my perspective, it was a weird one because it was almost you'll probably remember like in the industry, it was almost like I was expected to. So it was like, have you won your pro card yet? Because you're like it gave me a sense of like what's the word, anxiousness about it.
Yeah.
What I actually don't.
Unwanted pressure.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I've put all this work in. I put 10 years of my life into this and everything. And what if I don't turn pro? And then it was harder because I was seeing other people around me turn pro when realistically I should have turned pro a couple of years before that without like making the weight and all that. That just wasn't good enough. But well, it was like it was apples and oranges all jazz. So when I started seeing other people, it added more pressure to me being like, fuck, like they've got a pro card and I haven't. And like, I was like, fuck me. Like, so when I won my pro card, it was actually just a relief.
More of a thank fuck.
Honestly, it was more of a, it's going to sound weird, but it was more like, I genuinely remember like, they called my name and I was like, thank fuck for that. And then I was buzzing, got backstage, obviously fucking rang my parents because the thing was, my parents have been at every one of my shows, but like I wasn't meant to do this show. And I was like, oh, I'll just, my dad was like, you'll win. My dad said to me, you'll win it when you least expect it. And I was like, oh, I always expect to fucking win, Dad. That's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go there expecting not to win. This show I wasn't going to do because I was just done. I was like, I'm done with fucking trying to make £175 when I'm actually 180.
After COVID, wasn't it? It was just after COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't want it. My missus was like, just do it. Just fucking do it. Just run in. Because what it was I feel everybody says I should have, my mum, everyone said I should have won my pro card at the British. But
I did 2019.
Yeah, I should have won that. But basically, I came into bodybuilderish. I was too big, quote unquote, or whatever it was. So I just ran in and didn't do fuck all. So in my head, like, you know yourself when you feel flat.
You haven't done anything.
I haven't fucking taken any fucking carbs on board. I just went in and thought, it is what it is. And then when I won it back there, I was like, fuck for that. And literally I was like alleviated because I was like, now I don't have to make the weight and now I can make progress. Because people didn't realize that for 4 years,
You're holding yourself back.
couldn't make any progress. I'd literally run fuck all gear
Yeah.
and literally just not really push my body weight over like 220 because it was like, I've got to make this 175. No, I wasn't pushing my body weight over 210 because I've got to make it 175. So all the time you're displaying a physique that wasn't truly like my physique. So even though it was amazing, what I would say is nothing changes. Nothing changes in the sense of like
your goals are always there. You've got
what I realize as well. It's like momentary. So like there's pleasure and there's happiness, and the thing is like it's pleasure. It's a hit of dopamine. That's wow. That's amazing, and it's phenomenal memory. But you wake up in the same house. You go to the same gym, do the same cardio. You're with the same people. You drink the same. You eat the same. It, like nothing magically happens. So my sort of thing to people now is create a pro physique, act as a professional, and then when it does happen, you're already there. You're already doing it. So
you're already taking the box.
There's no magic that happens. Like all it allows you now to do is be like, right, well, I now need to prove myself on a pro stage. And that's obviously where I'm at now, is to prove myself on a pro stage and be pro worthy and literally hopefully, well, not hopefully, I am going to climb the ranks of that sort of level. And that just ignites, makes you more ambitious and makes you give you more drive to do that. But yeah, like,
do you find yourself more driven now than you were then? Yeah.
Because the thing is, I said this about Neil, Neil Curry. Neil Curry's always been great, but for the last year now, the last 12 months, because he won the New York Pro, is all eyes on him now. And the way he can then obviously now, the audience that he can hit and the people that he can hit and the people he can inspire is massive. He's always been getting up at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning, but just not a lot of people knew about it. And now that he can motivate other people massively because he's actually got the credibility and all eyes on him. When you're a pro, the shows are a lot more exposed. So it's like when you say we won a British here, like I always remember my following went up probably about 8,000 or 9,000 when I turned pro. And that was like, that's great. But you do really well at a New York Pro, it's going to go up massively because everybody's watching from all over the world. So now I just know that it's like my whole fucking company is statement season.
Yeah.
Right, well, let's make a statement and let's get seen and let's actually prove myself to everybody rather than just in the UK.
Yeah, and that will sort of correlate with your business mindset as well. Yeah. And that's what they're both driving each other to a certain degree.
Well, I look at it in bigger audience.
Yeah.
I mean, more people you can inspire, more people you can hit, more people you can speak to, more reach you have. That helps.
More people watching us to talk shit.
Yeah, and that's what it all intertwines with each other. Yeah. But again, what I look at it from like a business standpoint and from a personal standpoint. So like for my personal ambitions, obviously, is Olympia, this and the other. Yeah. People say, oh, well, you don't have to get to Olympia to run a great business. Yes, I don't give a fuck. I'd rather take half the business and get to that. So that's, now as a pro, it's you've got to level up in every single way, and it's great because you're either intimidated or inspired, and I'm fucking inspired to go for it. So that's kind of on a roundabout way, that's how it feels to win a pro card.
Good answer. Let me fire one. Right, what are your thoughts on adding? I know your thoughts. Adding bagel cereal bars, as well as your standard carbohydrate sources, rice, oats, potato, etc.
What are your thoughts?
It's necessary. If you've got an athlete who can consume 6,000, 7,000 calories from clean food sources, not clean, but like unrefined food sources, then you've got to use it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's still a fuel. And as long as you're not overdoing it to a certain degree and having every meal as Cocoa Pop bars, it's needed to a certain degree.
I look at it from a standpoint of where you probably have to push your food that high anyway. I push my food up to probably 900,000 grams of carbs. Yeah. And from a diet, and my waist is probably what, 27, 28 inch. The reason it can stay that small is because what I do personally is I'll hit my fiber content. So say we want 30 to 40 grams of fiber from like really good food sources, good, quote unquote good food sources, or bodybuilding sources. I hit my fiber content. Once we hit my fiber content, and then look at appetite. So say 500 gram carbs is easy for me to eat. If I get to 700 gram carbs, I'm like, fucking hell, like, I'm struggling. And then I'll look at something that's really easy to get in. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to add in cereal or bagels, like I can add 2 bagel thins or a bagel, or 3 bagel thins and some jam for 100 grams of carbs. Or I can eat another packet of rice, which really
it's going to take me an hour to eat.
From an adherence standpoint, are you going to be able to get that in? Are you going to be able to not process it, but are you going to be able to digest it? Is it going to be too much for your digestive tract to even handle? Are we going to get bloated? Are we going to get overworked? Are we going to go into sessions feeling like fucking hell? All the blood's drove to my fucking digestive tract because I've just eaten fucking 2 packets of rice and chicken. So it's all these things that take into consideration. But what I see a lot of the old school bodybuilders and people saying is, oh, like it's not fucking right what you eat for, but then we'll take Tren. Are you fucking stupid? Like,
I'm a Tren instead of.
It's like, oh yeah, well you just do Tren and then it's all you do Tren, yeah, if you got it. Or D-bol, we'll do D-bol, but
try and fucking eat that.
Definitely not Rice Krispie Squares bars, you fucking animal. Do you know what I mean? It's like, are you for real? So I look at it, everything has its place again.
Structure.
When you're pushing them, sort of, don't fucking make it. This is what I think some people get mixed up with. They go, oh, you can't prep on X, Y, and Z. You can. Your body doesn't go, he's eating a Pop-Tart, fucking not going to win. It goes, right, we've got X amount of calories, X amount of carbohydrates. The problem you've got is when you start making your diet out of like Rice Krispie Squares bars and Pop-Tarts, you'll be fucking starving.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if you've got a protein content to hit, a fiber content to hit, and a carbohydrate and fat content, you can't make your diet out of shit stuff. It's physically impossible because if you had it all out of Cocoa Pops, you wouldn't have any fiber. Do you know what I mean? And
you bunged up and you won't be able to eat properly for the next few days. You know what I mean? It's all relevant. And I think that if you have an individual that can progress on bare minimum and doesn't need it, then all well and good. You know what I mean? But there will be a time where you need to push someone. And like I've got clients with very difficult digestion setups, basically struggle to utilize sweet foods. So we have to look at avenues of like potentially using fat sources and things like that. So there are other options to sort of use, but you still can't get from a calorie perspective the range which you need to push. You can't just use all that from fats. You know what I mean? Like you can't. Your body won't process a couple 100 grams of fats as it will potentially process another couple 100 grams of carbohydrates. You know what I mean? So it's all relevant to the individual, but you've got to make sure that you're making progress with what you can.
The thing that I found as well is, say, for example, post-workout, you've just trained legs, right? And you feel fucking physically sick, right? And if you put your meal another hour, 2 hours later because you can't eat, because you've got chicken and rice, yeah, we're talking peak off season here. You then get on meals, you then wait until 1 o'clock in the morning to eat your meal because you can't get it in. It's like, let's be smart about it, guys, because Cocoa Pops and Rice Krispies are puffed up fucking rice. Right. and they're going, oh, well, it's all the sugar content. You've just drank maltodextrin, you silly cunt. Do you know what I mean? Like, to put it bluntly, you've just drank sugar. You've just drank dextrose. But, oh, no, don't get the sugar out of Rice Krispies. It's just, I think what it is, it's ignorance to looking at the actual research and the science and then not knowing how to apply it. It's like chicken and rice 6 times a day, oats, that's all you need. Yes, but I'm agreeing that's what you need to a point. And then it's like, okay, if we keep adding on fucking rice and adding on more fucking potato, 1, you're going to have a fucking extended gut. And then 2, talk to me about you when you were mixing fucking ice cream with protein shakes when you were fucking back in the 80s, you idiot. Yeah. Like you think that like doing a tuna and orange juice shake was fine, but eating Rice Krispie Squares bars is not. I could rant about this all day. And I agree. When you're dieting, you could honestly, because you can see some guys with, if it fits your macros, get in great shape. They get phenomenal shredded. But what that is you have to change the food sources over time because of just the amount of volume of food.
Yeah. And I was going to say, this brings me on to the question about Lewis and the food that he takes on board. But what were you going to say?
Oh, like if you're looking at eating, say, for example, 2 Rice Krispie Squares bars, which is like 42 gram carbs, or let's just say 2 bagel thins and jam, then, or you're going to eat, what, say 300 grams of potato. you're going to pick 300 grams of potato in a dieting situation because it's going to fill you more. So from a satiety standpoint, it's going to be a lot better for you. Like I do it now. Like I'm on 600 gram carbs. Cal doesn't tell me what to eat. I just pick what I eat. And then as I move through the diet, I'll change some more whey meals out for chicken because it'll make me feel. I'll change my fucking Rice Krispies after training at fucking 120 grams of potato because then I'm not starving and my food focus is fucked off.
Yeah, and that's what you want. And it's not about, oh, you can't use that food. You use that food for a reason. You know what I mean? It's not like potentially you could go on stage eating Cocoa Pops after every workout. I've done it. I've eaten Cocoa Pops all the way through a prep until the day I stepped on stage, you know what I mean? And carved up on Cocoa Pops and shit like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, you know what I mean? But it serves a purpose. The fact that you can get whole unrefined foods in your body is going to help with the sort of the hunger aspect of things, which will then potentially lead you to cheating on your diet and failing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if we look at it from like a micro standpoint, and we look at obviously like vitamins, minerals, and all that. If we have a good set base diet that covers all that, and we now need to add more and more onto that, we don't need to just keep adding half a bag of rice, a full bag of rice until the person just cannot get it in.
Yeah.
But from an adherence standpoint, and this is what I'm saying in the off-season setting, like, you just need to be smart about your food choices rather than being married to bro foods or whatever foods they want to fucking call
them. Yeah. This then leads me on to the next one, which is about Lewis. Is ridiculously high calorie consumption. How do I manage his gut health so it's optimal? And gut health, obviously, in what we were talking about, is essential because, you know what I mean, if you can't process the food, people think that, you're eating the food and it's going in, it's going out, but you need to partition that nutrition the right way. You know what I mean? You need to make sure your GI tract is optimal and performing at a point where you're taking that nutrition, not just processing it through and coming out the other end, say. But like Lewis will currently run, I think he's on 1,100 grams of carbs, and that's the start of his push. And he'll push up to probably 1,500, 1,600 grams of carbs a day. For me, and that's clean food to a certain degree. Like Lewis will he'll only deviate from, he'll have Cocoa Pops and bagels and jam. And that'll probably be maximum 3 bagels with jam a day and probably 200 grams of Cocoa Pops. The rest will be from rice and sweet potato. And that's a lot of food, you know what I mean, and oats. But for me, like digestive enzymes, fiber, like he'll have enough fiber through sweet potato through his diet naturally. But for anybody else, like fiber products, again, GDAs potentially.
What I tend to do is look at sort of habits first.
Yeah.
So I address habits and put sort of protocols in with habits where it's going to sound really gay, but like, are you chewing your food enough? Are you sat down eating? Are you in a relaxed state eating? Are you rushing around and
rushing it on your foot? You're not.
Yeah. Are you consuming enough water? Is the pH levels in our stomach alkaline enough? Like in a sense of, are we being too acidic? Have we got too much acidic in there, so we're getting acid reflux? Once we've covered all them bases, most people are okay. But then, if there is need to then add supplementation in on top of that, I will then use like digestive enzymes as the next protocol, and then obviously looking at like the structure of the diet and the way it's set up, and then even down to looking at like trigger foods. So there's certain foods that people just, like you say, there's like Lewis with his eating, there's certain people with certain trigger foods. But again, this is just an ongoing process, and this is why you've got to collect the data. If you're doing it yourself, you kind of got to collect the data, have a guess of like, well, that food source really, like some of my guys, it's like steak for whatever reason. It's
red meat. Yeah, I'll get it with quite a lot of clients. Red meat,
just like, boom, and I'm like, right, okay, so let's pull the red meat out of your diet, and they're fine. So it's like almost like what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Selecting one food, take it out, run it. Select another food, take it out, run it, and that's where you kind of elimination. It's like a process
of elimination. With Lewis, obviously, because of the amount of time, I know the food sources that will work with him. I can't put anything that's I wouldn't automatically put. But when you're setting up a new diet and then that person runs with it and he's got issues, like you said, it's then a process of elimination before we go down the route of supplementation. Conversation I had with someone the other day, he was peak off season, blending majority of his food and then basically having diarrhea constantly. That's it. it's all related. You know what I mean? Your body's taking the food on board, but you're not chewing the food to release that message from your brain to release the digestive enzymes in your gut, your GI tract, to then process the food. It's just going straight out, and you're not probably taking nutrition on board. So you have to look at all the root causes and make sure that they're covered before then looking at protocols. But for Lewis, literally, because I know the food sources, it's a matter of right when we go to peak off season, it's choosing the meal timing, because he'll eat or not 8 or 9 times a day, but he'll set alarms and wake. So it's not a matter of right, we need to get that in within a 14-hour period. It's like Lewis will set an alarm and wake up and eat food. You know what I mean? So it is spread out across the day. He's regiment with his food timing. So therefore we're optimizing that sort of digestion. Supplementation wise, bare minimum at the moment. If things, they will only start to back up at the latter end of prep, and then we tend to have a little bit of a pullback. But it does take a lot. We'll have to touch 10,000 calories before we get to that point. Like he'll be hungry on 7,500 calories.
What a go, bastard.
Yeah,
what I found as well is like another thing that I used to do wrong, which I thought was with digestion, is putting meals together and putting meals to, like, yes, you've got to get your food in, understandable. But if you're, for whatever reason, you're behind times or you haven't got your time to get your meal in, what I do for me personally, like say for example, if you're in the hospital with a family member or whatever, and I've just not got my fucking meal with me, I will not put 2 meals together. I used to do it. I used to put 2 meals together, but I just write it off as like, okay, I've had that meal, another meal. Because if you're compounding meals on top of meals, it's going to
have adverse effect.
Yeah, and then realistically, it's like, well, having a great night's sleep and having meals set out and the digestion still doing what it's doing on a timely basis is better for me personally than compounding meals and staying up to a fucking dickhead o'clock and not getting meals in time for the next day. It's just common sense, but sometimes I think again when I was younger, it was like the hardcore.
You've got to get it in.
Got to get it in. Blend it. No, if we don't miss a day of eating, we're not a day. If we miss one meal, you're fucking not a bodybuilder. And it's like be smart about it. Like it's only one isolated situation.
It potentially could be what 500-600 calories. At the weekend, you're going to smash a Domino's and a tub of Ben and Jerry's anyway.
I'm dieting. Don't make me jealous. You're like Domino's fucking texting me. I didn't just eat, and Krispy Kreme like emailed me at the same time. So I outed them on Instagram. And Krispy Kreme messaged back saying, "Whoops, sorry." Another question, bud, is okay. I'm going to be a bit controversial. What fucks you off about the bodybuilding industry? Ooh, say the names. No, I'm joking.
Names or scenarios. I guess it's from a coaching perspective, because I see things more so as a coaching perspective now as an athlete perspective. A lot of coaches coming into the game thinking that they know it all potentially when they're just recycling stuff for the gram. When you get down to the nitty-gritty and find out what this individual's like, then it's a shower of shit.
In a sense of like they're putting on a persona.
Yeah, basically. And even at higher level guys on social media, I mean, it's something that people want to get on this bandwagon of being a coach. But
don't do it.
Don't do it, trust me. But that's what they see. Like I think we had the conversation last week, didn't we? They see the 10K a month. But it's one of those things, you have to be committed to this. It's not just a front that for social media. At the end of the day, it's something you have to be ingrained in and sort of passionate about.
You gotta love doing it.
Yeah. One I guess for me, the horror stories is the clients coming to me or having a consultation with me and telling me about issues they've had, which are like horror stories with previous coaches.
The only thing I struggle sometimes with is I don't like it when people bash their old coach.
Yeah, but they will never name, but they'll highlight.
Like, yeah, okay. Just say like amicably. Obviously, if you've seen what they've done and they've sent it over and said like this is what they said, but no, if someone comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, they were shit and they were this," and that,
you need it. There's got to be evidence there to take it on board. But
Like,
There's no doubt someone probably left me and joined someone else and told them, oh shit. But
this is the thing as well, because everybody is their own biggest fan or their own biggest.
not everybody's perfect at the end of the day. But for me, it's making sure that you provide a service that's going to be.
I think as well with people is the very self-important, aren't they? So the minute it doesn't go their way, it's very victim mentality to blame everybody else. It's easy to blame everybody else. Oh well, they did this and they did that and they didn't do that, and it's like, just say we didn't get on as a coaching client. Yeah, I just want to change clients. It's easier that way. Coaches, sorry. I think for me, mine is I'm doing a show, I'm doing a prep, put it in my bio, or for Instagram, or over Instagram. I've got two ways of looking at this. I love the fact that people want to not make a name, because I think if I did this again, if I started bodybuilding again, I wish I'd have done YouTube from the day one. Gone.
Yeah, me too.
So I just put this light on, so oh, we've got some light. Yeah, so the thing for me was like, yeah, the thing for me is it's the audacity of kids or the lack of respect for people. I'm gonna sound like a fucking old timer here, but in the gym, if you see someone who's visibly obviously doing like a competition, or they take it seriously, or they're training really hard, and it's just no gym etiquette, they're just like, you're literally like, oh mate, are you using that? Yeah. How many sets? Just started. And it's kind of like, bro, like, come on, let's be serious. Like, I'm going to probably teach you something as we do these sets, and you're texting, and it's just like the whole fucking shit that goes on, like everybody moans about it. But that's one thing that really does my head in now is, but as the industry's got bigger, I remember when I was a kid, mate, if some gripper come up to me in the gym and was like, mate, I need that machine,
But fucking track on.
like, because you genuinely will get slapped, or you genuinely get a fucking whack, and no one would say nothing. It was like, you're the kid, you're
the boy.
Yeah, you're the one. Yeah, you're the one who's just come in the gym and you're a year in, and this guy's been doing it fucking 20 years or whatever he's been doing it. You respect him to say, "Do you want to jump in, mate? Or do you want this machine, mate? Or like, can I work in with you, please, mate?"
It's almost like your apprenticeship, isn't it? Like, we've all been there. You know what I mean? But thing is, that's when potentially like gyms were spitting sawdust gyms when we were growing up. You know what I mean? We were gyms where, and there's still plenty of them around, but just it's.
What happens now is these people start in a pure gym, and they're on Instagram.
And they're the peacocks of the pure gym.
They slowly come into like a sawdust gym, and then they think they can act the same way. And I'm like, mate, there's consequences to your actions, mate. Like, you can't act like that around here. Like, you're gonna get fucking hammered. Like, I don't condone violence, just say it. But that's
it's
just
respecting the seasoned competitor to a certain degree.
For me, it's like, it's not even just respect. It's more like, it's just gym etiquette. Like, I think everybody's lost that sort of gym etiquette and respect for each other. Because the thing is, I'll always say to someone, "Oh, can I use that, mate? Or are you using them dumbbells?"
Yeah.
They must. I just walk around like fucking.
I
don't know what mirror you're looking in, or what music you're listening to. Like, you're that hyped up, bro, or what pre-workout you're on, but you'll get knocked the fuck out. Joking. But that's one thing that really irritates me now. Everybody's quite entitled, you know, like who's getting into the industry, because they've obviously got that instant hit of like validation. Because you remember when we started out and you wouldn't get that.
Fuck me, Instagram wasn't a thing when I started.
Well, no, Instagram wasn't a thing, so you wouldn't get any sort of, no one knew who you were.
When you go to a show, no one knew who you'd be standing next to. You know what I mean?
Even down to the point where even when you won the show, it'd be other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only people who were there would see it. Whereas now it's like, you can be prepping for a show, or say you're going to do a pro show, be prepping for a pro show, and then never compete ever, not actually have competed, and people will be convinced you're a pro bodybuilder. Because
one thing, just come IFBB status in your profile when you competed at an NPC show.
Just stop in it. Oh, it's like IFBB. You're not. Like, stop it. Like, we've earned the fucking right, and we fucking you know how fucking hard it is to do that, and then you're just going to put IFBB just so people on Instagram will think you're a pro. You're a liar.
The thing, like, even I'm not taking this away from people, but the pro status, you know what I mean?
There's
People
only
claim,
one pro card. There's only
yeah,
one pro card.
there is only one pro card, and that illustrious pro card will always be the one. Any other show, like, don't get me wrong, like they've earned the right to be there, you know what I mean? But when people start saying and advertising that they're a pro athlete, a professional athlete, they're not.
No. What's your prize money?
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
You know
I mean,
like, oh,
PCA give prize money, but it's at a pro level, at their PCA pro level, but it's not an IFBB pro. IFBB pro is the only group.
well, when you look at it, like there's only one way to get to Olympia, and Olympia is the only real show that is the pinnacle of bodybuilding.
Yeah, like I even see it now, like I'll do my little thing on Instagram about who have what titles my athletes are on it, but I'll stipulate PCA pro card or an IFBB pro card or whatever. But then you'll see coaches put out 5 pro card winners, and they're from like the local show.
Yeah, it's like Miami Pro, where every tattooed dad and yummy mummy will get a pro card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like fucking hell. I'm fuck it. I'm getting tattoos. I'm going. I'm done. I'm done. Shit on. Yeah, that's one thing that really fucks me off. Like proper fucks me off. Another question. Let's just go back to some sort of fucking knowledge kind of things instead of bitching all the time. It's such a bitch. How long can you run your Hinbine for?
Well, I don't think there's a set rule, but for me, utilize it in a prep scenario when it's needed, potentially 12 weeks max.
Yeah, same. I find you're only going to need it in a prep scenario to aid getting body fat off. I'd say we're prepping for 16 weeks. I wouldn't start with your Hinbine from day one. I would use the other tools, get to a certain point where I put Clen and your Hinbine in together, work well together, and then I would basically like run that until probably like week before 2 weeks. So you're looking at say 12-week period. Once you've got the body fat off, you don't need to keep running your Hinbine. What I would say on that point is what I found anecdotally for me and for other clients is up to about 15 milligrams is fine. Anything above than 20, 25 is fucking, it ruins my stomach.
Yeah, no, I don't go above 20 anyway. With my I always start them on 10. I think we went into this last week, didn't we?
If you want to watch the podcast, it's
yeah.
Does using a butt plug engage your glutes while squatting?
Say what?
Does using a butt plug engage your glutes while squatting?
Can we name and shame the person and ask them to find out?
I'll be honest, I don't really use butt plugs, just really big dildos. Because what I find is like the depth. It's more about the depth. If you've got a big dildo below you, you can data.
Yeah, it's almost inviting you to get.
Yeah, it's data collection on the depth of how deep you go. And every week I just try and get a little bit further down. But no, I'm not.
A little bit of a pemp skid mark, just a.
Oh, yeah, I'm not too sure if a butt plug will engage your glutes, but if you
tell the person to try it and find out and give us some feedback.
What else have we got here?
I've got so first timer beginner going into bodybuilding. He needs to gain a lot of muscle. Is it significant to pile on a lot of body weight to do so? Like as in extra adipose tissue, would you say to push that muscle growth? Would you promote that as a first timer beginner, or would you sort of put on the context of
how I would structure it is looking at gaining probably about half a pound to a pound per week for a certain period of time in the surplus. So then we look at like, okay, we're pretty fat, like fucking hell, a lot of shit. We're not responsive. Like obviously our blood glucose is through the fucking roof. We're not getting a good pump in the gym. Like our insulin sensitivity is dropped in its ass. Our digestion's fucked. We're at peak strength, and joints are starting to hurt. And these are all things that will happen. And when we get to that sort of point where it's probably, I'd say about 20 to 25 weeks, just to give a rough idea, I would then incorporate what some people like to call a mini cut. But what I would say is like a practice prep.
Yeah.
So I'd run a practice prep for like 12 weeks, because these mini cuts are like 6 weeks, don't do fuck all. I'd run a practice prep for 12 weeks and take that body fat off and get down to a really good body composition, and then rinse and repeat that process until you've got enough muscle.
Yeah.
I use it like say 6 months. Say starting in January, You might go 6 months of a push up to like, say, what's that, January, March, April, May time, and then look at like May, June, July, sort of prepping because it's summer and it's nice to prep, and that gives you a little bit more of a goal. And then you can realize if you're a first-time bodybuilder and you're if you actually like prep, if you can actually do a prep, if you're actually made for this. And that's just how I would structure it personally.
What sort of body fat percentage are you looking at when you push someone as a first timer?
It's hard to say because
everybody responds differently.
It's just everybody distributes fat differently.
Yeah.
So like there's certain areas that you want to look at, like the areas that are going to be really hard to get in condition normally is lower back, like glutes and hamstrings. So when the back, like the posterior chain starts to get really, that just means back, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, if you're a beginner. The posterior chain starts to get really fucking shitty because you might have abs from the fucking front. People say to me all the time, "Oh man, you fucking lean all the time." I have abs. I'm not lean.
Oh, fat ass and fucking love handles.
Honestly, it's fucking ridiculous. So, if I could go back, I've got a question actually. If I could go back again and start out bodybuilding again, what I would have done is not allowed that back shot to get too sloppy, because
I would train my legs more.
Yeah, I'm not joking, but my fucking decent knees, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
I would have like literally won't let that get too fat. And then obviously pull back for like 12 weeks. Don't think these mini cuts of 6 weeks, because even though it's a long time to diet, but like I say, it's a practice prep. So treat it as a prep, maybe have a cheat meal once a week and then just keep going and be in that deficit. But you're going to need to be in a surplus for a good, I'd say 16, 20, 25 weeks.
Yeah, that's I guess the approach that I like to do is push as hard as we can until we can get to a point where you are literally non-responsive, and it's like, right, there is 0 point just going for a 6 weeks, because we're just going to get back there within another 6 weeks after that. You know what I mean, we need to take that body into a. But
what you'll find as well is you'll know yourself, once you're going to prep, oh my god, the 2-3 weeks after a prep, you think, this is the greatest physique I've ever seen.
God.
You feel like a god, don't you? Like you're like, I don't know whether it's high on sugar and donuts or you feel like whatever it is, but you fucking literally like, I'm a god. Because the thing is your body fat's low, but then your fullness is so high, and then you see like what you've and another thing that you could have mentioned as well is you can see what you truly need to work on.
That's what I tend to do is like, right, because when you have a physique, you're starting with a physique that's never competed before. You've got no true reference, as in stage condition reference point to say, right, okay, this is where you're at ground zero.
Yeah,
we need to work on your hamstrings, your butt, and you bring them up, right? So we have to think, right, okay, where can we go with this physique? Let's just load it. Going back to that earlier question, just going through the motions of just pushing weight, eating the food, building up, and then get into a position where, right, if you're not responding, pull back. Let's go down into this deficit and put your body into a responsive position where we can sort of get to a level of body fat and say, right, okay, on our next push, this is the area we can focus on. We can work on our delts maybe lagging, right? We're going to go on into the volume and build the training around the volume, which refers back to the other question that we got asked.
It always links, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and that's what the beauty of this is. Everything is all chains in the sort of the cog of bodybuilding.
And that's the thing as well. With these pushes and like push up and pull back, giving yourself that enough time to then be like, okay, well, actually, when I did push up, this area got like, I'm using myself for an example. My fucking glutes get fucking literally within 4 weeks. I'm like, are you fucking me? So it's like what you'll find even at my level now, we have to hammer that hard to get my glutes in. It takes away from everything else.
Yeah.
So even when you put in new muscle mass on, and if you allow your body fat to get too high on a certain area where you hold body fat, then it's going to take away from that new muscle, because the new muscle just fuck off. Do you know what I mean? So it's a matter of like, once you've done that first push, you can look and go, yeah, I gained body fat on my lower back real quick, glutes, hamstrings, or I gained body fat on my midsection really quick. So then you've got a reference point to be like, well, we only want to get to a certain level of body fat.
Yeah, we don't need to go past that, because it becomes, you're putting that
detrimental,
unwanted adipose tissue on, which essentially is all you got to do is get it back off again. You know what I mean? It then leads to a longer prep. Yeah. So basically, to summarize, like from a first timer's perspective, potentially you would take that individual to a more higher percentage fat ratio than you would maybe a seasoned competitor to a certain degree, just to stimulate that muscle growth.
I think there's you've got your first ever push up, you've got room to do that.
Yeah.
Wait, there we go. Getting sat in the bloody dark. Yeah, you've got room to do that on your first push because it's not going to be such stubborn fat.
Yeah.
So you're going to do it in that period of time and then analyze from there and be like, okay, well, yeah, I get really fat in the glute area. I'm not going to allow my body fat to get that high on that. And that you can take data collection from pictures, weight, calipers, and then you've got a reference point on. But just I wouldn't go a full 12 months of off season. If you stay fucking lean,
yeah, if you stay lean, then all well and good. But
well and good, but I'd phase it. I'd definitely phase it.
Especially from a first time, your body isn't as responsive to a seasoned competitor.
The other thing I would say for a first timer is you're going to win on condition.
Yeah,
you're going to win on condition because not many people like to take it to that level as a first timer because they can't do it.
Yeah. I've had a couple of first timers this year, like looking at 70 kilos on stage, absolutely diced, coming first, second, third. You know what I mean? Against them big lineups of big guys. You know what I mean?
But condition. The thing is when you're at an amateur level, no one's really got that, especially first time. No one's really got that amount of muscle. That's going to be like and condition.
It's going to be more impressive to see someone in condition because they know.
I think from a first timer standpoint, what you can control is condition. Yeah. And that's the same with myself when I was saying my first ever show. I was fucking 160 odd pounds. But the thing is, I was peeled because I was fucking mentally tapped, and I was like, I knew I have to be shredded. It's the only way I'm going to beat people, and that's the way I would approach it as a first time. It's like condition first, and then looking at like obviously how much muscle mass you've got because you'll probably run on that standpoint. Have you got another question there, Wood?
I do. The first part of this question we've sort of answered in regards to our sort of training principles and how we sort of go about that. But then in prep, when do you push and dig into a zero carb diet?
If it's not needed, never.
Exactly.
Never. Yeah. There's no need to go to zero carbs if it's not needed. I've done it because I had to, but it's really, I just don't think it's actually beneficial in any way, shape, or form. The same thing with I would say with carbing up. Some people might say, "Oh, we'll do 3 or 4 zero." Yeah. But for me, you're already depleted. If you're not depleted, you're not ready. So you're already depleted down. So there's no need to be like, "Well, I'm just going to put myself in a really shit spot here for trying to fill up." You're already on fucking say 100 gram of carbs or whatever. It's real low food. You don't need to do zero. It's not going to bring anything else to the fucking book.
It like for me, I find potentially natural athletes like to get them that next level. I've put a couple on pretty much just protein and trace fats for a very short period of time.
Yeah, but that's we only have them 2 tools, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You have hours of cardio, or you can pull calories down. So it's trying to manage that, and that's probably the only scenario this year. Potentially 1 or 2 athletes, which I may calorie cycle or carb cycle, dependent on the person. It's a tool at the end of the day. If it needs to be used, it'll be used. But if you can get away with not using it, you're going to have much more beneficial results, I think.
This is another one, would you say bodybuilding is a sport?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is probably the hardest sport in my eyes to first. Commitment wise for an individual to be dedicated to something. If you're doing it at a level where you can say that you've done everything to the T for 16, 20 weeks worth of prep, even in the off-season period, if you treat that like a prep and you're not willy-nilly going out on the piss every weekend and treating it just as a sort of general sort of push-up, if you treat this sport as seriously as you can, it's probably the hardest sport you ever do, in my eyes.
I think the only other sport that would probably be harder is UFC.
Yeah.
Like mismatch because they have to be really good at different levels. And if I look at what they do training-wise, in a sense of like the fatigue, performing in fatigue, and getting hit in the face. Like, the thing to say is bodybuilding is a sport. I think
more of a mental. I think bodybuilding, you have to be very mentally strong, which people don't realize until you're there. You can't explain to someone that you need to prepare for prep, but you need to be prepared up there. You know what I mean?
I've had like Marines they've come out the Marines, done it, and they've said it's possibly harder to do a prep because it never leaves you. Marines, you go to sleep, like, and then you get up the next day, and I'm not saying fucking hell by any means. I don't know how it is. You know, I'm saying I'm quoting what they said, and they were like, with this, you're starving yourself every single day, and you have to live with that every day. And you know, you could just literally turn that pain or struggle or whatever you want to call it off, and then that suffering off, but you choose not to, and then you ask yourself to do more, do less. You ask yourself to do more, eat less, and perform better all the time. I would say when people don't think it's a sport, what they're doing is they're just looking at the performance element of it. They're looking
at the gym process of it, going to the gym.
Even like looking at the gym, and then they're looking at like, okay, well, you're just standing on stage and competing against, or like just standing on stage and showing off your muscles. It's not really a sport. What they don't realize is what goes into that. It's like a 100-meter sprinter will peak for a 100-meter race. Bodybuilder will peak for that. Do you know what I mean? Like a
Usain Bolt will train for 10 seconds of his life every 4 years, or whatever he was doing it. You know what I mean? Like it was every day was working towards those 10 seconds.
Yeah, what we're doing is because it's definitive.
Yeah.
So like if you score one more goal than I do, you win. With bodybuilding, because it's not definitive, people don't think it's a sport. And it's like, well, it's not definitive. It's sports is something where you play against other people. But again, like we were saying, like a 100-meter sprinter, you are against other people. But even like, let's take fucking shot putting or whatever it is, like that isn't against anybody. That isn't against anybody, but you're just recording a score. And it's the same with bodybuilding, is you're just showing your physique. So you're not, even if you wasn't stood next to anybody, and then they're just recording you against somebody else. It's the same thing, but because it's not definitive, people think, oh, it's not a sport. But when you look at, I know me as an athlete and you as an athlete and athletes that I work with, I get up and I train, I go home, I recover, I eat, I do work, I go back, I train, I do stretching, I do physio, I come back, I eat, I go and train again, I come back, I do recovery, I monitor my sleep. I do everything that a fucking Olympic athlete will do.
Yeah.
Literally, even more.
Because you haven't got the harem of everybody around you supporting you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Even more so. So to say, even like if you look at top level sports people, I'm not saying they don't work hard. Some of them don't work as hard as we do. Obviously, they can perform at a different level, and it's showcased. So that's kind of like where people think, oh, it's a sport. Yeah, it's great. But day in, day out, if you look at what an athlete would do in a sport to what we would do in a sport, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, and the fact that you don't get paid for it unless you're hitting that top spots. So,
yeah,
and that's what people can probably relate to it, because you're not getting paid as a professional athlete. Yeah. But again, that's even putting more emphasis on us as why we do this. You know what I mean? It's not potentially because of the money, because we know that unless you're taking that number one spot at the Mr. O, it's like it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like
we always say like legacy over currency.
Yeah,
and it's like being remembered for being one of the best to ever do it, and in the hope that you inspire other people to go after what they want to do. Same with you with coaching. People look up to you now and be like, oh man, I want to be like that. People look up to me, hopefully, when I've done something and say I want to be like that. That's the thing that people don't understand. I even have a laugh with like my missus, and I say, to watch this, we'll be talking about bodybuilding like family terms, family parties. They say, oh, what's the prize money for like the Olympia? And I'll say, oh, it's $500,000. And we go, oh, that's all right, isn't it? And I'm like, obviously for classic, it's not $500,000. But I do it because I think even no matter what I say the number,
it's irrelevant.
You get it. You're just going to be like, oh, that's okay. I'm thinking, when have you done anything and got £500,000? Yeah. And they still just go, oh, that's not bad, is it? I'm like, you just don't get it, do you? They just, how much do you get paid for it all? I'm like, I'd get paid fucking nothing. I'd get paid.
We have to pay for the travel. We have to pay for the.
It's fucking great, but they just don't understand it. But yeah, to say it's not a sport is fucking. I think they're just thinking about
the naivety of it, of just being like, oh, they just lift weights and eat chicken and rice.
They just don't understand it. Who's better, open bodybuilding now or 90s open?
'90s.
Why?
I don't know. I just like the physiques more. That's just me personal preference. You know what I mean? I think apart from Phil Heath.
Okay,
No.
greatest Mr. Olympia of all time.
Say again?
Greatest Mr. Olympia of all time. Who?
Greatest or my favourite?
Who do you
Ronnie.
think? Hey, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Who's your favourite though?
Mm.
The favourite look. Okay.
Favourite look, Phil Heath.
Yeah. So 2011, Phil Heath.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
His look.
I could probably agree. Fully deserved, I think, Ronnie as the greatest. But my favourite.
Yeah, I think. Why would you say Ronnie for the greatest?
Just titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The amount of times that he showed up, and from where he came from. You know what I mean? He fought from being like 20, whatever place in the.
He was dead last, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Then he fucking just fought his way up. Sorry, mate, I'm going to put this on charge or we're going to ruin this whole fucking podcast. Yeah, I would say, like, as much because I'm British, I would say, like, I love Dorian. Just because of his mindset. And I think it then transcends into, like, gives you that motivation and that push. But, yeah, from a standpoint, like, Phil just, for me, wasn't active enough. Like, no one could relate to him.
No.
Like, you couldn't relate to him. You're just like, yeah, he was... If you're ever watching this film, sorry, but he was like, I've met him a few times, and he was a knob, like he is. And I'd say it to his face and just say you're a knobhead. Like the interactions I've had with him, he's been a dickhead several times. So no, what I say to people is, everyone gets a different version of somebody.
Yeah, 100%.
The situation, the mood. So I don't judge someone on like one encounter, but I've met him probably like 5 times now. I've met him at Expo when I worked with him. I've met him fucking when he came to Strength Asylum, did a seminar. I've met him at different shows and events, and it's like every time that he's done something, I thought, bit of a dick. Like, there's no need to say that. But what it is, I know it's going to sound bad, I'm bashing him, but in his defense, I think he got that much grief over time. It's become a defense mechanism. He's always on like, this is a genuine story. I said, bro, will you stop looking at her? Because every time you look at her, this is my bird at the time. She's like, oh, he looked at me. I was like, I'm not looking at her. I was like, he's like, what the fuck are you on about? I'm not looking at her. I was like, I'm joking, bro. And he was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then another time, I said to him, he was doing single arm rows, demonstrating. Yeah. And he said, mate, what's the reason you do? He wasn't being a dick. He was like fucking 18. What's the reason you're doing partial reps? And he was like, because he was just doing little tiny reps.
Yeah.
Like, when you've got 23-inch arms, everything looks like a partial rep. What a fucking prick. He could have easily explained to him and said, well, what it is, mate, because my arms are quite big, do you know what I mean? And I feel like I keep the muscle and the tension. But he just took it on the defensive, do you know what I mean? He was like, the guy was having a go at him automatically.
And that's probably, like you quite rightly said, it's probably just the way that he sort of had to adapt, and he's got a very defensive persona. I can only see your ass.
I've got a cream egg under here. Not very professional, this one.
I'm gonna start singing or something. Like,
I'm gonna come back up tonight, Matthew. Ta-da! I've not actually changed. Couldn't get it done in time. There we go. Everyone likes the podcast because it's raw and ready. Fuck that, yeah. Fuck all this professionalism. Yes, I would say, my ultimate physique that I would aspire to look like.
Flex.
Who?
Flex.
Used to be. But I realised I'm just not as good as him, the bastard. So now I'm in classic. It's like, I feel, this would sound really arrogant, but I feel like I could obtain some sort of look like Lee Labrada. I feel like I could, like, over time, you know what I mean? That's what I'd love to, like.
No.
Lee Labrada's fucking phenomenal, but
oh mate, Frank Zane, him, like they're the days like of it's weird, like you look at Sebum, you look at ours, like these guys, they're phenomenal athletes, you know what I mean? But when you look at like the traditional classic look, I don't know what it is about it. It's what made me.
This was another question we got. What makes someone classic?
Oh, there you go, Mr. Classic IFBB Pro.
Like that's what does make it classic. Like, I just think to myself, the thing is, you don't have to say this, and this. You see someone and like, they're classic.
Yeah.
They Go
It's a
on.
flow. I think a flow. It's not a. For me, it's an aesthetic look. Okay. An individual will have a body type, and that body type can be manipulated through muscle growth to allow them to look classical.
Mhm.
If their body doesn't, and it's very blocky, very, I guess, stubborn to the fact that it just wants to grow out in every direction, you become almost directed into your class to a certain degree. I'd love to be a freaking 300-pound open bodybuilder.
Would you like to be like that?
I'm just saying that I wouldn't. I still want to be a classic boy, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, if I could grow muscle, then like I could be a 300-pound bodybuilder. But like, I much prefer a classical look.
For
I
me,
guess.
yeah,
Go
for
on.
me, it's more like I like being, I don't know, I like having the illusion.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just because like now I look like I don't even train. But if I pose and I do a check-in, it'll be like, fuck, what's that? But I like that.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the fact that you come to life, and that's for me is always like the thing of bodybuilding. You'd see them sat in like in the interview with the little jackets on, and they'd be like Lee Labrada and Sean Ray and these guys, and they wouldn't look like they look like
Yeah.
the tennis players or some of the golf players. And then
Yeah.
they rag off and hit a pose. Even in a gym in the vest, they look like a normal person. But the minute they hit a pose, it just wows you. And
Yeah.
that's where like that illusion of going from not much to then hitting a bodybuilding pose to being like beating really big guys and being better than them that's bodybuilding for me. That's just my personal thing.
Yeah.
People bodybuilding is like I want to be fucking ginormous. And it's
Yeah.
like that's cool.
And
But
that's everybody's goal relatable to like what they want to achieve. You know what I mean? Like people, I want to be massive, and like they'll just grow and grow and grow to the point where I think, you know what, this is the look I want. But for me, it was always focus on right. Okay, I'm not going to be that open bodybuilder, so I work in my favor of working with classic look. So then I have to insinuate my physique to a certain degree. I haven't got a narrow waist, you know what I mean? So, but I have to pose as if I've got a narrow waist. So there's ways you can make it happen to make that classical look. And that classical look to me is the much preferred look in bodybuilding. I think that's the general consensus across the board now, the way that classic bodybuilding is growing. You know what I mean?
my biggest compliment is when people like comment saying, "Oh, it's photoshopped," like my physique, and I'm like, "That's cool." Because look,
Yeah.
watch the next slide. It's a video, you silly cunts.
Yeah.
But that's for me. That's why I like it because I'm like, I had it. You won't watch this anyway. But one of the head judges of Two Bros, Paul, really nice guy, lives in Wigan, near me, and he seen a photo of me and was like, "Oh yeah, but it's photoshopped."
Yeah.
And I was like, I got back to me and said, "Oh, it's photoshopped." I messaged him saying, "Bro, bro." I said, "Excuse me, mate, I'll come down and I don't call people older than me, bro. It's fucking, I hate that." So I said, "Excuse me, I'll come down and I'll do some posing in the gym." He was like, "Yeah, of course." And I posed for him and he was like, "Fuck." He was like, "Yeah, you look better than even the photo. Like, it's not photoshopped." I said, "I told you." But he was like, "I think I really dealt or something." And my waist. And I was like, "Yeah, that's just the way I am. Like, but that's for me, that's bodybuilding. Because in a t-shirt or in a hoodie, like I don't look like a fucking train, but realistically, like when you rag off and you pose, you want it to be almost like, how is that even possible?
Like,
How is his waist as small as his arm? As big as his arm? How is that illusion? Sometimes I think I can admire and look at people and be like, wow, that's phenomenal to have grown that amount of muscle. But then how does the muscle look in a sense? Like my biggest thing now is like Samson. Like look at Samson, it's like, yeah, I get it. That is bodybuilding.
yeah.
That is where I think open bodybuilding should be.
I totally agree there. Samson is probably my most favorite open bodybuilder, current bodybuilder. I think Charles
Why
Griffiths.
that is the way because he looks like an old school bodybuilder, but he's fucking huge. Because that is bodybuilding. Like even the Asher's pretty much the same, or you've got a few others like who are looking like they just. So for example, like when Sean Ray went bigger, or say Lee Labrada tried to go bigger, they never lost that look. You know what I mean? They always had that nice look, and then they stopped. And there was some. I remember watching Road to Olympia, and there was some years where they went smaller. They came down smaller to get lighter, and they got lighter and looked better. Do you know what I mean? So it's like not just
a size game.
Quantity. It's more like quality of like, right, okay, well, you need more lats to make your waist up smaller, so bring your lats up. And that's kind of like what classic for me is like people aren't it's somewhat annoying because people are like, right, I'm going to do classic because I can make the weight, and I'm like, that doesn't mean shit.
And that's it's fair enough to a certain degree, but you have to have the physique to pull it off.
I think there's levels at a regional, and this you'll do well, but it's like if you wanted a pro card in the classic, you've got to have a classic physique like Lines. They probably outlier, and even Michael De Bull. Michael De Bull is phenomenal, but he hasn't got the greatest structure, but he's still a lot better than everybody else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's where like that will come to a level where the judges will see an amateur guy who's trying to be a bodybuilder but can't be a bodybuilder, so he goes into a classic, and they'll see that, and he'll be almost marked down for that look, because
100%.
it's not what they're doing as judges is right. How's this guy going to fit into the pro league? You know what I mean?
Does he fit the criteria?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does he fit into the criteria? No, he's just, again, like I say, at a regional level, you'll probably get away with like winning because
there may not be the strength of competitors around you, but
strength of competitors. But once you get to a British and get to like a pro qualifier, like I remember my pro qualifier was 36 people. Like, how are you going to stand out in a 36 people lineup? Like, you've got to be good. So yeah, I think that's kind of what makes people classics. It's just you just know, like, it's just a look. So yeah, if you like, for me, if you look at like if Rough Diesel for me is classic. That's just
that's the if you look at in the dictionary, rough would be your stereotype go to, more so than I would say C-bum.
100%. I think not I love Rough to bits. I think his skin, like the darkness, the depth of his skin is
cleanness of it. Yeah.
Yes, because he's literally like he just looks dry. He's not oiled, so much oil he puts on, he doesn't ever get that shine. And then obviously he was a little bit off this year, which was like, oh fuck it. Yeah, it's a shame for him. But is 12 nanomolar test low?
Depends on the age of the person.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always run like 12 to 30 nanomolar.
Yeah. Anything single digits, I'd say low.
Yeah.
But then you got to take into consideration the person, if they've run anabolics in the past, if they're old, should we say?
Yeah, because obviously it's going to diminish over time.
Yeah.
What do you? This is a point that I always make as well. Is I think to myself, people should be testing at like the age of 40. You should get your testosterone tested, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of symptoms that these people and a lot of guys are feeling, and not to go too deep on it, but like mental health and all this.
Feel good hormones.
Yeah, and the thing is, reason you've not got libido, and like that's stressing your relationship out. You've not got any drive or ambition to go. Like I think as well, like this whole midlife crisis thing that happens to people is most likely because of dipping in testosterone.
100, like I'm not saying 100%, but the amount of conversations I've had with previous lifestyle clients of mine, who have never taken a single steroid in their life. Okay, they're fit, they're healthy, but they just feel a bit blah.
That's well, the only way I can describe it to people is when they say meh. I just feel like there's nothing to be sad about, but there's nothing to be happy about. Yeah. And it's that meh feeling.
They'll have a good job, they'll have a good family, they're in a good relationship, but blah. You know, and
there's just no fucking
go. Your feel good hormones are diminishing. Okay, your testosterone's coming down, your estrogen's coming down with it. You know, I mean, we need to put them back up, and in the States, it's very much more easily, I guess, obtained from a doctor's point of view. You know what I mean, where you can go and see a GP and say, look, can you measure my test levels? Can we do something about it?
But no, on yourself, you could do it for 30 quid yourself.
Yeah, and over here, but we're not doctors at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, but we can get people to say get your blood works done, and we can hypothetically advise them.
I would, I'd just say it'd be good for people to get their blood work, not even to give it to me, to get it to themselves, and then say, like, go to the doctor and say, I've got testosterone. Well, how do you know? Well, I've done a blood test. They might take it even further then. And it's like, that's where I think people should be looking at. Because I look at some of my guys who are 45, 50, and they're like fucking 18-year-olds. They're not in the sense of like immature. I mean, like, they literally are just still high on
living life,
loving it. And they're obviously on hormone replacement because that's why they're feeling great. But I think that's a massive thing that people need to look into if they're not looking into it. Is like your actual levels of testosterone. Well, another question is microdose. You don't microdose, do you, Gear?
No, no.
So it's kind of a question for me.
Watch the other podcast, person.
Hey?
Tell them to watch the other podcast.
Yeah, if you watch the other podcast, and I should have put timestamps on it, but I haven't got time to sit there and fucking go through everything. So
you employ somebody, mate.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, I had a look to see like if there's any software that you can do to, and no one wants that job. No one. Quick overview on microdosing is basically just injecting every single day, but people get this misconception that I jam a massive green in my arm every day, which is not happening. I use small, tiny insulin pins with small amounts of gear. So I'll split my whole amount of gear up over 7 days, and that might be like 0.3 on an IU, and I'll just quickly pin that into my shoulder. Don't really need to worry about changing sites because it's real small. And I just prefer to do that, one, because I hate jabbing, and two, I find just less scar tissue, less pip. There's just a few different things. People don't like doing it because it's a long process, not long, but it's a tedious process. But
it is, and it can be quite daunting for people getting into the sport as well. You know what I mean? Do you remember your first ever jab?
Yeah, mate. Fucking hell.
It took me about 3 hours.
No, never. Honestly, mate. Right, this is God's honest truth. It's the day I was like, I'm not being a bodybuilder. So I was really young. I was like 16, 17, right? And the lad was like, you should do a show. Ironically, it was Mr. Wigan. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. I was like, everyone on gear though. I was like, yeah, you just got to do it. It's like, fuck it. And this lad, he'll never see this, but this lad, now I know. What he'd done, he didn't want to give me any of his fucking blues. He must have been running short on a blue, right? So he'd drawn out with a green, right? Fucking drawn it out to like a mil. And jabbing with the same green in my mate. I didn't have a shoulder. I was fucking tight. I didn't even have any muscle. And he's put it in my shoulder, and I'm like, fucking hell. And then I've gone out to my mate who I was training with at the time. I said, mate, there's not a fucking chance you're doing bodybuilding. I said, you should see. I said, fuck that.
Fuck this shit. It's got on piss.
My fucking arm. And then
dead for weeks.
It was like out here. Because obviously my arm was tiny. It was fucking tiny. And yeah, it was massive. And I thought, this is not for me. And then I thought, I'm not doing it. And I said, I'm not doing the show. I'm not going to be able to do it. Not a chance. Because I was already dieting and I was going to do it naturally, and everybody was taking gear. And I was like, so that was like my first introduction. And then the second worst ever memorable jab I had, I've never jabbed my legs ever. Still never jabbed my legs ever. Fucking hate it. Just the sound, everything, and all that.
Yeah.
He used to say, oh, I bet he jabs his legs all the time because they've grown. I'm like, you're fucking stupid. I went to this guy in the gym and I said, can you do my jab for me? He was like, yeah, of course. Because again, I hated jabbing. In this shitty back room of fucking locker room in a fucking gym, like old school.
Clean.
He said, you should, yeah, sterile as fuck. He honestly had a nurse's outfit, honest. And he said to me, put it in your leg. I said, I've never done that, mate. I said, I don't really fancy it. He said, yeah, you'd be sweet. And not, honestly, he put it in my fucking hip flexor. I couldn't walk, mate. I could not move my fucking leg. So he's not, when you like go down a certain section, but he's just gone, boom, mate. So I'm in bed. Obviously, mum and dad don't know I'm taking gear. So mum's like, yeah, you got to go to work. I said, mum, I can't walk. She said, what? I said, I pulled my leg at the gym. I can't walk. Mate, 3 days I couldn't walk for. My leg was fucking massive. And I thought, what a dickhead. And the guy just said to me, stop being fucking soft. I was like, well, stop. I've never ever jabbed my legs ever again. So yeah, that's the don't do that, kids, basically.
Oh, mate. I remember we were in Turkey. Amanda just had her boobs done, and they were giving her morphine for the pain, and she was half asleep when they gave her the first injection. Second one came in, she was like, "Oh fucking hell, sorry, they've done it in the quad," and she's like, "It's fucking hurt," and it's straight in with the green. The nurse came in again, green, like morphine. And was like, "No, it fucking hurts." Okay, we've got to do the other leg.
Wow.
But she's done her fucking hamstring. She missed her quad and got a hamstring.
Honestly, I remember back at school and stuff, like they just didn't give a fuck. Like boom. Like, oh.
Mate, I've seen guys on the doors, right? Oh, I've got to do my jab tonight. Got his fucking white shirt on with his fucking vest. Bring his shirt. I'm like, fucking
weirdos, man. I'm pacing up, and even now I'm pacing up and down.
Sweats.
Yeah. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Come on. Mrs. is like, it's 12 o'clock at night. I'm going to bed. I said, fucking just right, go do it. And, oh my god, you pussy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Not that we condone injection steroids or anything.
hey, no, we don't conduct. No, I was on about once. Let me get this from you.
Multivitamin IV drip.
Yeah, B12, all that job. Things to help you gain weight if you're a hard gainer.
As crazy as it sounds, mash shakes.
Yeah, no. I think for me, the tricks I've learned over time is muffins are a great thing pre-workout. Expensive, but the calorie dense in carbs, fats, you're never gonna fucking miss them.
Yep.
You're never gonna miss a muffin pre-workout. Trust me. Like
Everyone loves a muffin.
if you've got 400 calories in a muffin pre-workout, this is shit that I wish I was told and not eat tins of tuna and do tuna shakes. Intra shake is going to be probably your best friend because you can get 100 grams of carbs in with obviously aminos. And even if I used to do is use the, I still do it sometimes, is the hydrolyzed, fucking my protein do it. The juice, it's like juice protein. What's it called?
Yeah. Clearway.
Clearway. So you can use a Clearway in there as well if you're doing 2 liters. Get a little bit more protein in there as well. And then post workout, again, eating things. And I tell you what, the one thing that I found was really calorie dense was potato cakes with my breakfast. Potato cakes are dense as fuck. So, and then the other thing would be adding oil in a sense like Udos oil or things like that to bump up the calories when you can't eat.
Yeah. Chai seed, even things like chai seeds and flaxseed, just put them in your oats. You know what I mean? You're not going to know.
Yeah, because fats are more calorie. People might not know more calorie dense than carbohydrates. So you're looking at like 9 calories per gram. It's really easy if you add like a tablespoon of like oil. So say like Udos oil to your rice and next meal.
Not vegetable oil.
Yeah. If you do that, you literally or macadamia or nut oil or something like that, you're gonna then add extra calories in without even really noticing it. Because there is a point where you get to when you're younger, when you're trying to gain weight and you just can't gain it. Again, look at your body fat levels, but these are the things that I wish I'd have known as like adding, like I say, adding some decent calorie dense cookies or muffins pre-workout, intra shakes or gone, man.
Yeah, and post workout, you've got a peri-nutrition window where you can pretty much get away with anything to a certain degree, as long as your body can take it on board. And
what things I wouldn't do is I wouldn't start eating junk processed foods in a sense of McDonald's.
Yeah,
I've done that myself. Every last meal fucking used to be McDonald's. My body just doesn't accept it. My stomach, my arse would be fucking stinking, and my stomach just doesn't like it. So I'd probably avoid that personally.
I think the most I've pushed someone is 3 cheats a week.
But I'm just I was doing
every day.
I was doing it as one of laziness. I'll be honest, it was laziness. My last meal, I hated it. The other thing I would say as well is when you're trying to gain body weight, always make your last meal pretty easy and convenient to prep. So like something like Greek yogurt, granola, because you're going to be fucking tired. You're going to be full. You're not going to want it. Yeah. So you're just going to be like, right, let me get this meal in. Or if you've got to stand there and cook chicken or cook it in an air fryer,
not going to happen. You'll go to bed and miss it.
Go to bed and miss it. So
even a shake. Again, another shake. Make your own shake. Oats, fucking nut butter, honey, whatever.
I'm like, again, most hard gainers are not. You're probably the same. I'm not a big eater in the morning. So my first meal is a shake. It literally blended. 160 grams of oats, peanut butter, frozen berries, and whey. And it does the job. And then what that allows me to do is get it in, and then for some weird reason, once I've got one meal in, I'm sound. But I could genuinely not eat all day. If I didn't eat that first meal, I could not eat all day.
I've only eaten, what time is it now? My watch has died. 5 o'clock, I've eaten eggs for breakfast and chicken and rice.
Yeah. It's that's what I mean. It's like I could go all day without really eating, but once I've got that first meal in a shake and it's done, and again, it's convenient if you're driving to work or you're on the way to the commute or whatever, you can just get it in, shake a cup, neck it, and it's the job's done for the first meal. So that's what I would say in trying to gain weight.
That actually leads me on to one of my questions. Top 3. Where has it gone? top three off-season struggles. Now that is definitely one for me and you. Of course, we've just touched on in regards to getting calories in to push us up, but two others potentially in an off-season scenario which you struggle with.
I go three would be structure, keeping structure and routine. For me, I really this is me personally. I struggle because I'm full between wanting to live my life in a certain way, enjoy it, travel. Like I've done a lot of traveling and travel experience, business. I get pulled into that. And in the off season, because I feel good, I'm not tired. I feel like I'm ready to hit it. Like I get pulled away from keeping that routine to stay a bodybuilder.
Bodybuilding zone.
Anyone who follows me on social media see like I'll be raving.
Party boy Ryan comes out.
To be honest, mate, I just think if there's ever a moment that I'll never get back, do you know what I mean? So for example, like if I'm going out into town, I'm not going to go out into town. But if there's a moment where it's like in Ibiza, where it's an isolated 4 days, and I'm never going to get that moment back in my lifetime, then I'll like New Year, like New Year's once a year, so I'm never going to get that New Year back. So the thing is like I'm just going to enjoy that unless I'm on prep. But that's one thing I struggle with in the off season is keeping that and then getting my food in. So the amount of food to get in is just ridiculous, and timings, and then what else would there be? I think the general overall like fatigue of like being heavy.
Yes, I think I can relate to all of them. Probably say that I'm the same because I think we're the same body type. I think we're in a position where we can be very relatable. Like struggling to get calories in, and then obviously when we're at that point where we naturally focus at a lower body fat percentage normally, you know what I mean, we're when we're at that higher level, it is that lethargicness and that tiredness that comes with it. And
it's having the lethargicness and tiredness that come with it. And then it's like I say, I struggle to be boring. Like I just think myself being boring, like what you're doing. I sometimes wish I could be more boring. And that's going to sound really stupid, but I wish I could just stop and be like, I'll just go and gym, go home, rest, go gym, go home. And I think I'm wasting my life. And this year I have done that a lot more. I've just kind of stayed in that groove. But again, in the off season, I really struggle with that because I'm like, there is much more to life than just
we enjoy life, mate. You know what I mean? We work hard and we want to be able to do things that we enjoy. You know what I mean? We like to travel. We like to go out and do stuff. You know what I mean? It's something that's in our nature too, because that's who we are. I know bodybuilders that are black and white and will literally just live in the moment of just right. This is what I need to do every single day, whether it's off season or prep. You know what I mean? And that's perfect for them. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
I think my problem is it's probably from my point of being a worry. Like I get to a point where I worry and I think, what if it doesn't all work out? Do you know what I mean? Like, what if I don't make it to there and I've kind of wasted the best, not the best years of my life, but the years that, you know what I mean? Like I've wasted these years of my life being so regimented and then being like, so maybe that's just a bit of self-doubt where I'm like, I think to myself, maybe it might take me 3 years longer than it would have done.
Yeah, and that's it.
But
you're
anything.
Yeah, you're accepting of that. You know what I mean? Where others will think, you know what, I want to work towards it now and put everything into now. But if you can still make that progress, whether it be 12 months, 36 months, you're enjoying those 36 months as well. You know what I mean? And that's down to you.
The time period of when I was younger, people don't realize that that's what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't do, me and Jay, like, you know, me and Jamie didn't do fucking nothing but bodybuilding. We didn't do anything but bodybuilding. That was it. We fucking ate, slept, trained, done. Ate, slept, trained, done. When everybody else was partying. And that's when we was like, right, we're going to do coaching, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And we just literally live like monks. So it's like now we're at a point where, or I'm at a point where, I don't know about Jamie, but we're at a point where it's like, well, there is no balance, but there is. It's trying to balance it out to be like, I don't want to be burnt out and fucking hate every day of my life what I'm doing. Like I can prep and not have to worry about anything else. But the other 6 months of the year or whatever, the other 7 months of the year, like there's going to be times where I'm going to want to enjoy myself. I want to experience life, and I think you've just got to pick them moments where so like after a show, it's like, well, if the window of opportunity where we work really fucking hard, let's go on holiday for a month. It's like it's
just factoring everything in, you know what I mean, and having the support around you, knowing that in that prep scenario, those things will be limited. But after that, it's sort of like, right, we can do what we want within reason to a certain degree. I think we had the conversation like a couple of weeks ago about like obviously Lewis is buggering off to Dubai for 3 months just to set up camp and just live his 12 weeks of off season there. Like we said that like, if we were in that situation, we'd be tempted too much to go elsewhere.
I just go partying.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm missing out. It's like a FOMO thing. I feel fear of missing out, and I think, oh my God, I'm gonna fucking like. If someone says to me, "Come in zero gravity," I'm like, I'm already here.
Yeah. And that's us. You know what I mean? That's what we do. And but other people, some people don't do that, and it's each to their own at the end of the day. And all you got to do is worry about yourself and how you manage that. Just make sure you enjoy life.
Thing that I struggle with in the off season, like the way I structured it this year was, I'd do 12 weeks. I call it monk mode, 12-week mode, and then I book a holiday. Yeah. And I'd have a deload where I'd be like, right, so I have a 3-day trip or a week trip. I'd do another 12 weeks because I had a long off season, and I'd book a holiday. And I just worked in them 12-week blocks then, because I'm like in a prep scenario. If I say, right, I've got 12 weeks, as long as I've got something to look forward to, it's like, well, I'm going away in 12 weeks, so I just keep grinding down, don't worry about it. Whereas if I don't do that, I just for whatever reason it is, I just think, fuck this. And that's me being a professional, like, and it's just the way you deal with it's different. But I would say for people in an off-season setting, it's a good tool to set them small, short-term sort of periods, because after 12 weeks, you're probably going to need a deload anyway, in the sense of like three or 4 days off. So use that as a period, well, I do anyway, use that as a period of time where you're like, right, well, the first one I'm going to do 3 days off, and I'm just going to go away, enjoy myself.
Enjoy the weekend somewhere.
Switch off from bodybuilding, switch off from coaching. Not that I can do that, but try to. And then after another 12 weeks, I'll probably do a week off. You know, mid-year, I'd probably do like a full week holiday. And then again, I'll just keep repeating that cycle. It works. That's the way it works for me anyway.
Yeah, and I sort of resonate with that, because I sort of give my guys like, right, okay, from conversation we have about building a timeline, like we could be stepping on stage fucking end of next year, you know what I mean? But trying to keep that sort of client in the mindset of, right, we're still working towards that goal, but this is what we've got to do in the meantime. But essentially, like the body, you're not going to be in a position where you can maintain that for that 18-month period.
It's not linear. Do you know what I mean? You've got to go like, right, we're up, oh, just chill. We're up, just chill. And that's just the way it works for most people. Some, like you say, some people are fucking monk mode all the time, but I can't do that. So that's one of my struggles. And then, like you say, getting calories in, and then just the feeling like fucking people don't really, I don't even know how the big guys do it, man. But like when you get heavy, like you just like
struggling to put your shoes on and your socks on, like fuck that.
Yeah, it's just like I pushed up the heaviest I've ever pushed up this year. It wasn't even heavy. It was like
same with me.
225 and whatever. But the thing for me, I was just like, I don't know. I just felt like I'm fucked.
Mate, I was sleeping like 12 hours a night.
I was sleeping like 8 to 10 hours, then have a meal, 2 meals, nap, go train, come back, nap. Like I was just like falling asleep. Like, fuck.
Yeah, and then at that point, it's non-productive. You're not.
I think what it is as well is like the top level pros. Let's use Samson for example. He doesn't have to run a business.
No.
He's at that level, so it's kind of like that's one thing that I struggle with is like not being able to
function.
That's my biggest problem as well in the off season, is because like I say, I feel great. I think fuck it, I'm going to smash business, and it's like, Ryan, you can't take this massive workload on because
you're going to be prepped too.
Even now with the clothing, it's like my mind's a million miles an hour. Like, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to do this. And I'm like, I'm prep. Like, just let it do its thing and stop giddy, because I love business. It's what I love doing.
I'm the same as you, and I'm like, right, okay. If I have a quiet month, I'm like, right, what do I need to do? But you don't need. It's just a natural progression. But did you feel at your heaviest, like your productivity with work dropped, like it did through?
Honestly, bro, like,
same as if it would on prep.
I can't describe that. I can't describe it. It's like brain fog.
I
don't know what I'm doing. And I think that's when being really strong and you fucking absolutely bury
DNS is battered, mate. You like your strength is up, everything goes into your sessions, and you like I'd come away and be like, right, I need to sleep for like 3 hours now, and then like lose that 3 hour block of
The thing is like I will only work in the mornings. Like I will not work after training because I just don't do anything. So it's like I get all my work done in the morning. And then I'm like, right, I'm done. And that's in the off season, like building other resources for like my app and so on, or clothing. I couldn't do it because
you probably have like a work block in the morning, then you'll train, and a work block and another work block. That's how I normally set it up. And like the other work blocks just wouldn't get fucking done. So like the other projects I had going on and the other things I need to do just didn't ever get done. Checking to get done, that's it. And that's I can't do it in the off season. I just fucking feel fucked.
For me, and again, this is where that sort of mindset of, right, I'm not an athlete anymore, I'm a coach, because it was both ends of the spectrum, right? I'm at my heaviest now, and I'm the same scenario as I am when I'm 5 weeks out from my show, you know what I mean? So
it's the same, yeah, exactly the same. It's like when I was the same in the off season, I was like, when am I going to get a fucking break? Like, this period now is the perfect period. It's like you're 16, 15 weeks out to probably about 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out. That run there is fucking sick. Like now,
because your productivity is fucking skyrocketing because the energy is there.
I must have designed about 15 t-shirts. It's fucking ridiculous. I'm like, honestly, the guy who helps with the clothing is like, what, another idea? I'm like, yeah, well, what about this? What about that? But I've got to remember as well, like back end of prep, like, that's another thing as well. Like on the back end of prep, your productivity just drops on its hard.
That just reminded me, one of that question that we had earlier about what's the stupidest thing you've done on prep. I set up a supplement company over 2 nights because I set up an online supplement store, bought $7,000 worth of supplements on it from one of the wholesalers, built a website, done that in 2 nights.
Like gone from modafinil. Yeah, literally, like that's what you get, like, don't you? You're like obsessive about bang, get this done, and then there's no infrastructure there.
Yeah,
you're just like, fucking, I can't even run this thing. But we have fucking, what we've been chatting now, fucking hours.
2 hours again.
Unbelievable. I think, honestly, we'll announce this one, but I think we should bring other guests on and make it a full podcast.
I think we do, mate.
Yeah, I 100%, like, people love us, and then they're going to look even more people. It's practically a gangbang. We were there. You know what I mean?
I had some
3 dicks are better than 1 dick. You know what I mean? So
I think we both had positive feedback off the last one, so I think this one made sense. And if people are enjoying this, why not? Let's make it happen.
Yeah, if we can make it a little bit funny, have a fucking laugh, have fucking informative shit, and then bring other people on to share their bullshit, it'd be fucking sick.
Yes.
Right, if you have got this far watching
and you haven't fallen asleep,
get a life, or you get on a fucking dating app or something and fucking start. Or I bet you've got misses if you're watching this far long.
Mate, it's 2 hours long. No one even does 2 hours worth of cardio to listen to the end.
Yeah, mate, this is, and you probably skipped this part because the end's the best part. But anyway, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let us know what you think. Ask some funnier fucking questions.
Yeah, we need some funny shit.
Yeah, we need some funny questions, and I say we'll work on getting some guests on. Probably no one after we slated the whole industry, but amazing. Thank you for watching. The funny thing is, me and Martin always are dying for a piss right now, so we're like,
breaking the net. Gotta go, holding it in. Pee in a bottle.
Nice one, bud. Right, do it.